was dumped in the woods like trash. My mom didn't have any enemies. My mom loved people. She did not deserve that. The investigators looked at everyone. Anyone in her life. They looked at my biological father. They looked at Terry. We all knew he did it. This is a picture of Terry and I when I was a baby and he was 6. It's a very cute picture. We're smiling so big. You can just tell there was a lot of love there. He was my mom's first child, first baby boy, and she loved him to pieces. He was cute and he was caring, but that didn't last long. It's hard looking at the picture, knowing what he ended up being capable of doing. When we were younger, it was normal for us to stay home alone. My mom worked 3 jobs, and our parents were always gone, and so my brother would be in charge. One day we were home alone, and Terry told me to invite 2 of my friends over. I had no idea what he had planned, and he started shooting them with his Nerf guns. And at first, I didn't think anything of it exactly. And they're screaming and they're running through the house, and he had one blocked in the closet. And he was laughing. I was yelling at him to stop, and then they ended up running out of the house. And that's when we realized something's not right. There was blood. Terry had put sewing needles in his Nerf guns. And I asked him, I said, why would you do that? And he said, I just wanted to. Looking back at it, that incident with the Nerf guns started to show a different side of him, very dark side. Terry got pleasure out of tormenting my friends who were young, because it's like he had power over them, that they were screaming and that they're yelling stop and that they're running from him. He liked that. I was always scared. Terry would do these weird games with my sister and I, where he would give us an ultimatum. We would either have to lick his shoe or go inside a sleeping bag head first. And so I remember climbing in the sleeping bag, and he would sit on me where I was trapped, and he would start punching me. And I'm screaming because I'm feeling claustrophobic. I can't move, I can't get out. I'm hyperventilating because I feel like I can't breathe, and you're squirming, and you feel like it's just not ever gonna end.
I definitely remember panicking about not being able to breathe, because sometimes, he would like sit on it or tie it up, so then we'd, just really scary situations. But I know if you panic and freak out or start to cry or scream or anything, it angered him. It would make him mad. And I think he always enjoyed and got pleasure out of being so dominant over someone. And whenever we confront him, like, why do you do this stuff to us? Why do you always torture us, pretty much? It would be 10 times worse next time.
I remember him playing on the basketball team when he was in high school, and he didn't get along with some of his teammates, and he would get in fights with them. So when my brother came home with the cast on his hand, we were asking what happened, and he said that the kid on his basketball team was running his mouth. So he punched him in it. Terry's demeanor was that he didn't care. He did want a reputation. He was bigger and stronger. And I did think, wow, you don't want to mess with my brother. That is the first fight that stayed with me. There were others after that. It was always somebody else's fault why he did something. My mom always believed my brother. She said trouble always finds him. I think Terry liked to hurt others because he was in a sense of control and power.
Where do you think that came from?
You want my honest opinion? It was his nature. Because we did grow up in the same household, and my mom was very nurturing, yet Terry had this darkness about him. I knew the brother that I grew up with was gone. I didn't know who he was.
This is Terry, myself, and my sister with Santa Claus. I don't know who made my outfit. We were cute kids. He looks like a sweet kid. He doesn't look anything like he does now. It's hard to imagine making sense of any of it. He does not look evil here. He does not look like somebody who could do the things that he did to our mom. It's almost impossible to see that he was a sweet little kid. Because all I know is the monster. So growing up, my mother was Catholic. We prayed. God was very big in our life. He was the center of our household. Terry did not participate as much as she hoped. So there was a time that my mom was taking me to church and made him go because he was not acting right. He would just be so disrespectful and disobedient that it was impossible to live with him. So she made him go with us to church that day. And it wasn't long at all into the service that he was yelling that my pastor didn't need to be up there because he's telling everyone lies and he's gonna go to hell for that. And Terry knows because he's seen it all. Terry had been spiraling out of control. It was gut-wrenching. Just some of the stuff he said, it was so gross and just you couldn't follow it. And you're like, who is this person? We have seen that side of him quite a few times. That's just who he turned into. You never knew what he was gonna say or do. But for him to show all my friends and my community that side of him, it was definitely embarrassing. I was sick to my stomach.
Terry struggled with being respectful. You couldn't tell him what to do. I remember a day where I was in my room and I'm playing and all of a sudden I hear arguing. So I go and peek out from the corner on top of the steps and my brother and my biological father were getting in a fight because my brother was being disrespectful. Terry was always one that wasn't gonna back down from anyone or anything. And that's when he got physical with my dad. And they went through my mom's curio cabinet. Glass everywhere. And my mom's over there just screaming, trying to separate them. And she grabs Terry because he had glass and blood all over. And Terry once again made it sound like it wasn't his fault. He wasn't remorseful. It was a, you come at me and that was what you're gonna get. I didn't understand why any of this was happening. It was very traumatizing to witness. And it still is an image and memory that still lives with me. He was out of control. So then my mom reached out to her brother in Iowa for Terry to go move with them. It was not an easy decision for my mom to make, but she felt like she had no other option. My mom was at her wit's end. I did not miss him. It was peaceful when he was gone.
He came into the house very abruptly and just in a panic. And he was covered in blood and dirt. Of course, my mom goes running to him and it's like, what happened? He was supposed to be out walking the dogs and he was saying that he was jumped. And so my mom asked, because he wasn't, bleeding anywhere, like, where is this blood from? From the moment we met him, my mom's whole demeanor and everything changed. I miss him so much. And I got to see what love really looked like. And to see how happy my mom was. And he took in all of us with all of our baggage and our crazy and such a good man. He set the bar high. He tried to have a relationship with Terry, and my brother pretended to be best friends with him until his true colors came out. It's a major turning point. He would write her letters letting her know what he thought of her and what a bad mother she was. And he was never gonna forgive her. And everything bad in his life was because of her. They never let me read them, but I remember my sister got a hold of them and she told me some of the stuff that was in them. Tabitha told me he wanted to kill her. My mom struggled. She would cry. And my stepdad would just hold her and then he'd get upset. And it got to the point that her and my stepdad were terrified of when he got out. I think the whole house was on edge. My mom and my sister, we were all together, and then my brother got brought up. And my sister was not aware that I wasn't aware of the discovery they made. And she mentioned about him violating my pictures. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? And she told me how he would cut me out of my photos and ejaculate on them. It's done. And if she didn't, then I'd be done with her. I did not want to show my face at school. I didn't want no friends. I couldn't go to church. He had taken enough from me. That is a sick, disturbed monster.
This is a picture of my mom kissing my dad on the cheek. And this is when my dad was sick. My dad, Mike. It was very hard. My mom was a caretaker, so she was caring for him. Yeah, this is a hard time for her because the love of her life is very sick and she felt helpless. And she was just doing everything she knew to do to help him and take care of him. When Mike died, my mom went through so much grief and depression and loneliness. Just so sad. She was just so sad all the time. And that's when she invited Terry to come back. Terry definitely saw it as an opportunity to take advantage of her. Here she is vulnerable. Here she is alone. I didn't think it was a good idea for her to bring him back in the home. But at that time, I didn't think that he wanted her. Like, I didn't, like, even though I had that gut feeling, I didn't think that it was gonna come to this. I wish I would have done something to save my mom. My mom was supposed to stop by the house and hang out for a little bit, and she called and she just said she was too tired. She seemed a little down. And I just said, okay, Mom, you go home and get some rest, and I love you. It seemed off that my mom was a little down and tired, like something was bothering her, but my mom didn't open up and share. That was the last phone call I had with her. So my uncle called me Wednesday.
Hello?
And he was like, hey, have you heard from your mom? He's like, you know, I kept calling her and haven't heard from her. And so we tried calling. It's going to voicemail. It's going to voicemail. And that's when it sank in. There's something wrong.
Y'all are 5 miles up the road. How is my mom missing? And then I had asked my aunt and uncle where she was going without her dogs. I didn't buy it for a second. I knew that wasn't true, like, point blank. That story's not true. Her dogs were a major red flag. She didn't go to a store. She didn't go to an event. She didn't take us to school without her dogs. If she grabbed her keys, they knew to load up. When they found her vehicle, it was kind of like a knot in your stomach, because my first question was, then where is she? And I didn't know if she was kidnapped. I didn't know if she was robbed. Either way, finding the vehicle and not finding her, it's not a good situation. Her car was found not too far from the house, but on a road that we wouldn't have been on. And her belongings were on the outside of the car, but they were placed a specific way so that they could be found. Her phone was found, her purse was found, all of her money, her ID, everything except the vehicle key. We knew she was in trouble. And after it had been a while, we were advised we need to be looking for a body. And a search party was put into place, and volunteers came in. It was not long at all. We got a call to meet at the fire department. I called my sister and we sped so fast. I went inside expecting to see her. And they said we found a body. And I just remember everything going blurry. And I couldn't breathe. I couldn't see straight. They found her not far from our house at all. I used to walk to where it is. On the side of the road, with a bunch of garbage left there. My mother was strangled so severely her larynx was snapped in half. Nothing made sense. How did this happen?
When I walked into the house, it was a very eerie feeling. Terry had taken over the house, so it was very strange to be in the home. It's very unsettling, and I'm shaking, and I'm scared because I didn't want to be around him.
I didn't hear you come in.
I was asking him how he was doing, and he said, I'm just ready for all this to be over. His eyes looked so dark, and he looked soulless. I've never seen anything like that before. But I did it so they would have a recent picture in case he did run, and quickly got out of there. And as they were searching my mom's house, they found my mom's Betty Boop keychain that she had that wasn't in the car.
Here we are on the road again.
I didn't know the significance at first,
Love traveling.
but on one of our trips to see Anne when she was pregnant,
Mama Big Rig right there.
and I'm recording. I don't even know why. I grew up with my mom recording us kids, you know.
Mommy, you're gonna be a grandma. I know.
I'm recording the scenery, I'm recording my mom, and as I'm moving the camera, I capture her keys and her keychain. The keychain ended up being one key evidence in the investigation. I didn't even know I had the video of it at the time. I was just looking at videos of my mom, and I was missing her. And that's when I was like, there it is. But I can't have hate in my heart.
17 years old, she made a choice that would cost her everything. She walked away from her college dreams, her bright future, and her family's warnings to financially support a 30-year-old felon with 6 children. 10 years later, when she finally tried to take her life back, he made sure she'd never get the chance. Welcome back to Shadows of Crime, where we expose the darkest truths hiding behind closed doors. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button because today's case will leave you questioning everything you think you know about love and loyalty. May 9th, 2024, a kitchen in North Lawndale, Chicago. 27-year-old Tatorsha Williams takes a deep breath and speaks the words she's been rehearsing for weeks. Words that should have set her free. Words that should have given her son Christian the life he deserved. Kevin, I'm leaving. We're done. For 10 years, Tatorsha had been the backbone of this relationship. She'd left her promising college career at Malcolm X College to support Kevin Scott, a man 12 years older than her. She'd helped raise his 6 children from previous relationships. She'd paid the bills, kept the household running, and endured his infidelity and manipulation. But now, at 27, she was finally ready to reclaim her light. Kevin Scott stood there, processing what he'd just heard. The woman who had sacrificed everything for him was walking away. The woman who had been his financial lifeline was cutting the cord. The mother of his 7th child was taking that child with her. What happened next would destroy a family forever and leave a 5-year-old boy asking a question no child should ever have to ask. Why, Mommy? Before we continue with this devastating case, I want to hear from you. Have you ever witnessed someone stay in a relationship that everyone else could see was toxic? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and smash that like button if you think this story needs to be heard. Because what Tatorsha didn't know was that Kevin Scott would rather see her dead than see her free. Tatorsha Tira Williams wasn't supposed to end up as another statistic. Born to Trinetta McClure and Terrell Williams in Chicago, she grew up surrounded by love, faith, and endless possibilities. Her family knew her as Toria or Bobo, a bright, ambitious young woman who seemed destined for greatness. At St. Malachi Church, where she dedicated her life to Christ from a young age, Tatorsha was known for her generous heart and unwavering faith. She was the kind of person who opened her home to anyone in need, always putting others before herself. Her warmth drew people in, and her determination inspired everyone around her. Academically, Tatorsha excelled beyond expectations. She graduated high school as a high achiever, earning her place at Malcolm X College, where she was building the foundation for a successful future. Her professors saw potential, her family saw promise. Her friends saw a young woman who would change the world. Tatorsha had dreams that extended far beyond her North Lawndale neighborhood. She envisioned a career that would make her family proud, a life filled with purpose and achievement. At 17, she was focused, driven, and ready to conquer whatever challenges lay ahead. But here's what nobody could have predicted. All of that promise, all of that potential, all of those carefully laid plans were about to be derailed by a single decision. A decision that would transform this college-bound teenager into someone completely different, because at 17, when most young women are worried about exams and career choices, Tatorsha Williams was about to meet a 30-year-old man who would convince her to abandon everything she'd worked for. And that meeting would set in motion a decade of manipulation that would ultimately cost her everything. At 17, Tatorsha Williams was navigating the typical challenges of college life when she encountered Kevin Scott, a man who would completely alter the trajectory of her existence. Scott was 30 years old, 13 years her senior, with a complex personal history that should have sent any rational person running in the opposite direction. Kevin Scott wasn't just older, he came with serious baggage. He already had 6 children with different women, a pattern that spoke volumes about his inability to maintain stable relationships. His reputation in the community was far from stellar, marked by instability and a talent for manipulation that he'd perfected over the years. But Scott possessed something that drew Tatorsha in: charisma. He knew exactly how to present himself, especially on social media, where he crafted an image that masked his true nature. His humor and charm became the bait that hooked a naive teenager who couldn't yet recognize the difference between genuine affection and calculated manipulation. The red flags were everywhere, glaring and impossible to miss if you knew what to look for. A 30-year-old man pursuing a 17-year-old college student, 6 children with multiple women, suggesting a pattern of abandonment and irresponsibility. Stories from his past that painted a picture of emotional abuse and control. Family and friends who tried desperately to warn Tatorsha about what she was getting herself into. But Scott was a master manipulator. He convinced this promising young woman that she was different, that she was special, that she could be the one to change him. He painted himself as someone who needed her help, someone who would be lost without her support and guidance. The most devastating decision came when Tatorsha chose to leave Malcolm X College. She abandoned her education, her dreams, and her carefully planned future to help Kevin Scott raise his 6 children and manage his household expenses. At 19, she became his wife, officially tying herself to a man who saw her not as a partner, but as a resource to be exploited. By the time she realized the magnitude of her mistake, she was trapped in a web of financial dependence and emotional manipulation that would take her nearly a decade to escape. I want to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever seen someone ignore obvious red flags in a relationship? What do you think are the biggest warning signs when it comes to age gap relationships? Hit that like button and let me know your thoughts, because recognizing these patterns could save someone's life. The question that haunts everyone who knew Tatorsha is simple. How did a brilliant, faith-driven college student become the 7th woman to have Kevin Scott's child? By 19, Tatorsha Williams had become Mrs. Kevin Scott, officially bound to a man who viewed marriage not as partnership, but as ownership. What followed was a decade-long nightmare disguised as domestic life, where every day brought new challenges and deeper entrapment. The birth of their son Christian should have been a moment of pure joy. Instead, it became another chain binding Tatorsha to Kevin Scott. She was now the mother of his 7th child, joining the ranks of 6 other women who had learned the hard way what it meant to be involved with this man. Christian became both her greatest blessing and her most complicated burden. She loved him fiercely, but his existence made leaving exponentially more difficult. Kevin's manipulation tactics were textbook predator behavior. He used emotional coercion to maintain control, making Tatorsha feel responsible for his well-being and that of his other children. When she questioned his behavior or expressed dissatisfaction, he would twist the situation to make her feel guilty for being ungrateful. He convinced her that without her financial support, his children would suffer. And what kind of person would abandon innocent kids? The infidelity was constant and humiliating. Kevin Scott had no intention of being faithful to Tatorsha despite her unwavering loyalty and financial sacrifice. He flaunted his relationships with other women, knowing that Tatorsha was too invested to leave. Each betrayal chipped away at her self-worth, making her question whether she deserved better treatment. For years, Tatorsha endured this cycle of abuse, manipulation, and disrespect. She worked to pay the bills while Kevin contributed little beyond chaos and heartbreak. She raised his children while he pursued other women. She sacrificed her dreams, while he lived without consequences for his actions. But something began to shift as Tatorsha approached her late 20s. The naive 17-year-old who had fallen for Kevin's charm was gone, replaced by a woman who had seen enough, endured enough, and sacrificed enough. She started to remember who she used to be before Kevin Scott entered her life. She began to envision a different future for herself and Christian. Her family, especially her mother, Trinetta McClure, had never stopped worrying about Tatorsha's safety. Trinetta had watched her daughter disappear into this toxic relationship and had long feared that Kevin's behavior would escalate beyond emotional abuse. The warnings from family became more urgent as they witnessed the toll this relationship was taking on Tatorsha. By 2024, Tatorsha had made a decision that would change everything. She was no longer willing to accept Kevin's treatment. She was no longer willing to sacrifice her son's future for Kevin's comfort. She was ready to break free from the prison she had unknowingly built around herself. Tatorsha and her mother had found a 3-flood apartment in Chicago, a fresh start where she and Christian could build the life they deserved. The excitement was building. The plans were in motion. Freedom was within reach, but Kevin Scott was about to discover that his meal ticket was walking away, and his reaction to losing control would be more violent and final than anyone could have imagined. The 3-flat apartment represented everything Tatorsha Williams had been dreaming of for years. Located away from the chaos and toxicity that had defined her adult life, this wasn't just a new address, it was her declaration of independence. For the first time in a decade, Tatorsha could see a clear path to the future she and 5-year-old Christian deserved. Her mother, Trinetta McClure, shared in this excitement like never before. After years of watching her daughter trapped in Kevin Scott's web of manipulation, Trinetta finally saw hope returning to Tatorsha's eyes. They spent hours planning the move, discussing how they would decorate Christian's new room, and imagining the peaceful life that awaited them. Tatorsha was practically glowing with anticipation. She was so excited, Trinetta would later recall, her voice heavy with the weight of what was to come. This wasn't just enthusiasm about a new home. This was a woman reclaiming her life after 10 years of giving everything to someone who had given her nothing but pain in return. The apartment represented safety for Christian, who would finally have stability without the constant tension that had marked his early years. Tatorsha envisioned bedtime stories without arguments in the background, family dinners without Kevin's unpredictable moods, and a childhood where her son could simply be a child. But before any of this could happen, Tatorsha had to do the one thing that terrified her most: tell Kevin Scott that their relationship was over. May 9th, 2024 started like any other day, but it would end in unimaginable tragedy. Tatorsha had rehearsed this conversation countless times in her mind. She knew Kevin wouldn't take the news well. His entire lifestyle depended on her financial support and emotional labor. But she also believed that after 10 years together, after everything she had sacrificed for him, he would at least respect her decision to leave. She was wrong. When Tatorsha finally found the courage to tell Kevin that she was moving out and taking Christian with her, she expected anger, she expected manipulation, she expected him to try every trick in his playbook to make her stay. What she didn't expect was the level of rage that would consume him when he realized he was losing control permanently. The kitchen of their North Lawndale home became the setting for a confrontation that would destroy multiple lives in a matter of minutes. Tatorsha stood her ground, probably feeling empowered for the first time in years. She was finally choosing herself and her son over Kevin's demands. But Kevin Scott had already made his own choice. If he couldn't control Tatorsha Williams, then nobody would have her, and 5-year-old Christian was about to witness something that would haunt him for the rest of his life. What happened next in that North Lawndale kitchen on May 9th, 2024, would shatter every life it touched. Kevin Scott's response to losing control was swift, brutal, and unforgivable. He pulled out a gun and shot Tatorsha Williams multiple times, ending the life of the woman who had sacrificed everything for him. But the most heartbreaking detail of this already devastating crime was that 5-year-old Christian witnessed his mother's murder. The little boy who should have been playing with toys or watching cartoons instead saw his father destroy his world in the most violent way possible. The trauma inflicted on this innocent child is beyond comprehension, a wound that will never fully heal. Tatorsha was pronounced dead at the scene when police arrived for a well-being check. The woman who had been planning her new life just hours earlier was gone. Her dreams of freedom and safety for Christian destroyed in an instant. Kevin Scott didn't stay to face the consequences of his actions. Like the coward he had always been, he fled the scene immediately after the shooting, beginning a desperate attempt to evade justice. He knew exactly what he had done, and he knew the law would be coming for him. During his time as a fugitive, Scott went to extraordinary lengths to change his appearance, even attempting to remove a distinctive face tattoo that would make him easily recognizable. For nearly 3 months he managed to stay one step ahead of law enforcement while Tatorsha's family struggled with grief and the overwhelming burden of planning a funeral they couldn't afford. The community rallied around Tatorsha's devastated family, but no amount of support could fill the void left by her absence. A GoFundMe was established to help cover funeral expenses, raising nearly $2,000 from people who had been touched by Tatorsha's story, or simply wanted to help a grieving family seek justice. Trinetta McClure found herself not only mourning the loss of her daughter, but also trying to help young Christian process an incomprehensible tragedy. "He understands that Mommy is in heaven," she explained, "but he is like, 'Why, Mommy?' A question that no grandmother should have to answer, and no child should have to ask." The ripple effects of Kevin Scott's violence extended far beyond his immediate victims. Friends, neighbors, and church members who had known Tatorsha as a generous, loving woman struggled to understand how someone could destroy such a beautiful life. For 3 months the question remained, would Kevin Scott face justice for his crimes, or would he escape accountability just as he had escaped responsibility throughout his entire adult life? After nearly 3 months of evading capture, Kevin Scott's run from justice finally came to an end. Law enforcement agencies had been relentlessly pursuing leads, and despite his attempts to alter his appearance and stay hidden, Scott was eventually apprehended and charged with first-degree murder. The arrest brought a sense of relief to Tatorsha's family, but it could never bring back the vibrant woman whose life had been so brutally cut short. The legal proceedings that followed would force the family to relive the nightmare repeatedly. Court appearances, testimonies, and evidence presentations meant that Tatorsha's loved ones couldn't simply grieve in peace. They had to fight for justice while processing their devastating loss. The first-degree murder charges reflected the premeditated nature of Scott's actions, acknowledging that this wasn't a crime of passion but a calculated act of violence by a man who refused to accept that he had lost control. Local organizations focused on domestic violence prevention used Tatorsha's story to highlight the deadly reality of intimate partner violence. Her death became a rallying cry for better resources, earlier intervention, and community awareness about the warning signs that too often go unrecognized until it's too late. The support extended beyond financial contributions. Trinetta received help with childcare, meals, and emotional support from a network of people who understood that healing from such a profound loss would take years, not months. Church communities, neighborhood groups, and advocacy organizations all played roles in ensuring that Tatorsha's family didn't have to face their grief alone. But even with all this support, the fundamental truth remained unchanged. A promising young woman was gone, and a little boy would grow up without his mother because one man couldn't accept losing control. The Torsha Williams tragic story contains numerous warning signs that domestic violence experts recognize as predictors of escalating abuse. Understanding these red flags could help save lives by encouraging earlier intervention and escape planning before situations become deadly. The age gap and power imbalance when Tatorsha and Kevin first met represents a classic pattern. At 17, she was vulnerable and impressionable, while Kevin was an experienced adult who knew exactly how to manipulate her emotions. Predators often target younger partners because they're easier to control and less likely to recognize manipulative behavior as abnormal. Kevin's financial dependency on Tatorsha was another critical warning sign. Abusers frequently create situations where their victims become financially responsible for them, making it harder for victims to leave. By having Tatorsha support not only him but also his children from other relationships, Kevin created multiple layers of guilt and obligation that trapped her in the relationship. The pattern of infidelity combined with emotional manipulation is textbook abusive behavior. Kevin's constant cheating wasn't just about other women, it was about maintaining psychological control over Tatorsha. Each betrayal reinforced his message that she wasn't worthy of respect, while simultaneously making her feel grateful for any attention he did give her. Perhaps most telling was Kevin's history with multiple women and children. 7 children with different mothers suggests a pattern of using pregnancy and parenthood as tools of control. This behavior indicates someone who views relationships as opportunities for exploitation rather than genuine partnership. The escalation from emotional abuse to murder often happens rapidly once victims assert their independence. Kevin's immediate resort to deadly violence when Tatorsha announced her plans to leave demonstrates how quickly psychological abuse can become physical. When abusers feel their control slipping away, warning signs that friends and family should watch for include isolation from support systems, financial control, constant monitoring of activities, extreme jealousy, threats of violence, and any history of violence against previous partners. When victims express fear of their partner's reaction to leaving, this should be taken as a serious indicator of potential lethality. Prevention requires community awareness and intervention. Friends and family members who notice these patterns should offer support without judgment, help with safety planning, and connect victims with professional resources. Local domestic violence organizations provide confidential counseling, safety planning, and emergency shelter services. Most importantly, we must recognize that leaving an abusive relationship is incredibly complex and dangerous. Victims need support, not criticism, as they navigate the difficult process of escaping abuse. If Tatorsha's story resonates with you, please share it to help others recognize these warning signs. Awareness saves lives, and your voice could help someone identify danger before it's too late. Together we can break the cycle of domestic violence by speaking up, supporting survivors, and demanding accountability from those who choose violence over respect. Torsha Williams' story serves as a devastating reminder that love should never come at the cost of one's safety, dignity, or dreams. Her decade-long relationship with Kevin Scott illustrates how manipulation can masquerade as devotion, trapping victims in cycles of abuse that become increasingly difficult to escape. The most crucial lesson from Torsha's tragedy is learning to recognize manipulation disguised as love. When someone consistently takes more than they give, creates financial dependency, or uses emotional manipulation to maintain control, these aren't signs of a passionate relationship, they're warning signs of abuse. Genuine love empowers and supports. It doesn't diminish or control. Communities must do better at supporting domestic violence victims before situations escalate to tragedy. This means creating safe spaces for people to share their concerns without judgment, providing practical resources like emergency housing and financial assistance, and training community members to recognize warning signs. Churches, schools, workplaces, and neighborhood organizations all have roles to play in creating networks of support that can intervene before it's too late. We must also address the cultural narratives that normalize unhealthy relationship dynamics. When we romanticize jealousy, possessiveness, or the idea that love requires sacrifice of one's independence, we inadvertently enable abusive behavior. Healthy relationships are built on mutual respect, trust, and support for each other's individual growth and happiness. If you recognize yourself or someone you love in Torsha's story, please know that help is available. The National Domestic Violence Hotline 1-800-799-9723 provides 24/7 confidential support, safety planning, and local resources. You deserve relationships that build you up, not tear you down. Torsha Williams was a daughter, mother, friend, and dreamer whose life had immeasurable value. She deserved to see her 30th birthday, to watch Christian grow up, and to experience the freedom she was finally brave enough to claim. While we cannot bring her back, we can ensure her story serves as a catalyst for change. Remember to subscribe for more stories that matter, and please share this video to help spread awareness about domestic violence. Your engagement helps these important stories reach people who need to hear them. Together, we can work toward a world where no one else suffers Torsha's fate.